What better way to bring in All Hallows Eve than diving into the Salem witch trials? Many of us, not all of us, have heard of the Salem witch trials, but do we really know the details? The purpose of my speech is to bring you back into 1692 when the Salem witch trials began. I want to tell you of the lives of the people involved, those who are being accused and the accusers, and just the trials themselves, and how multiple circumstances have come together to create the perfect storm which caused so much tragedy. The Salem witch trials are not just something to tell kids on Halloween to entertain them. It is an important part of history. History is important so we can continue to move forward. We could either use the things of the past to help us, or we can use the things of what not to do, like in this case, to move forward and not make those mistakes again. I love history, and it might sound a little weird, but I like history with a little gore in it. I guess it adds to the suspense and excitement of the story. I have spent many hours diving deep into the trials. I've read academic journals, read books, and just looked at other resources as well to help me to bring to light the tragedy and what could have happened during those times. Today we are going to go right into the hysteria that was going on in Salem Village in 1692. What kicked off the trials in the first place, those women who were being accused, and a greater look into the trials of those themselves. It all started with two young girls in Salem Village. One was Elizabeth Parris, or Betty as she was like to be called. She was the daughter of Reverend Samuel Parris, and her cousin Abigail Williams, who lived with the Parrises as well. Being a Puritan belief when you are a young girl was hard to say the least. Puritans had very strict rules, and they weren't allowed to do many things like dance, listen to music, play games, or have toys. You needed to be very submissive and quiet. They believed that people who were more likely to have the devil inhabit them were women and children because they were weaker. Marion Gibson, a professor of Renaissance and magical literature, said, "The Puritans believed in a world of invisible spirits, a world of devils, witches, none of whom they could see." In February 1692, the cousins started acting strange, to say the least. They would hide under chairs, they would contort their bodies into weird positions to complain of being pinched and bit, and just fly into fits of rage. Several doctors came to the parish's home, and it was just one doctor, Dr. Griggs, who decided to say that the girls had bewitchment. The girls then confessed to dabbling in witchcraft. They had been known to sneak off into unknown places and do things that weren't allowed in the Puritan faith, which would invite the devil. According to historyofmassachusetts.org, the girls dabbled in fortune telling, and one of the things that they would do is they would drop an egg into a glass, and whatever shape or thing that would have in it, they would be able to determine who their husband would be or what their social status would be. And that was totally scandalous and very witchcraft-like. They were pressed to tell who had bewitched them, and things escalated from there. You see, the girls had a slave in the house, and her name was Tituba. She came with Reverend Parrish from Barbados and moved to Salem with them. And all the research that I've seen, that Tituba was Native American. And being Native American back then was hard because they were feuding and they were scared of the Native Americans because they went and burned down their villages, things like that. And the Native Americans would come and take some of their girls as well. So there was tension there. And they believed that Native Americans were witches and had witchcraft as well. So to put icing on the cake, a family friend came over and had Tituba, because she helped them, or around the girls, make a witch cake. And in a witch cake, you would use, what would you use? You would use rye, milk, and you would use the urine of the girls, and you would bake it into a cake and feed it to a dog, and then the dog would be able to tell you who the witch was. So another person, the girls named two more people, Sarah Good and Sarah Osborne. You see, Sarah Good, she was not attending church. She begged for money on the street. She was pregnant with her third child, and people didn't like her very much. So that's, I think, why she was accused. Sarah Osborne was different in that she had money, but she was scandalous in the fact that she slept with someone before she married him, and that was bad back then. So the trial of Tituba started on March 1st, 1692. She at first denied everything of being accused, but she was pressed so hard and harassed and accused by others. In court, she stated that the devil came to, so she did confess, and in the court she just said that the devil came to me and bid me to serve him. So because of her confession, her life was spared and she sat in jail until she was released. So Sarah Good, who had never confessed, had always proclaimed her innocence. So right before Sarah Good was hanged, she was said to tell, "You're a liar. I'm no more a witch than you are a wizard. If you take my life away, God will give you blood to drink." She was just 39 years old when she was hanged. Sarah Osborne never confessed either, and she died in jail May 10, 1962, around 49 years old. The evidence was always based on spectral. A specter is a visible, disembodied spirit, ghost, or something that haunts or perturbs the mind, according to Webster's dictionary. That meant that an accuser would be able to say that an accused specter was tormenting them, and it didn't matter if they had an alibi or not. The court didn't need any cooperation. It was better to agree to being a witch and be convicted if you didn't confess and stated your innocence than you were hanged. Since the accusations made by the two young girls, there were many who were accused. It was said to be over 200. It only stopped because the higher up started to be accused and the governor wasn't having any of that. In the end of the trials, 19 innocent were hanged, 4 died in prison, 1 man was pressed to death because he wouldn't confess, and many were held prisoner. It's crazy how Betty and Abigail only had to accuse Chichba, Sarah Good, and Osborne to set off a whole town. I hope you were able to get a glimpse into what it was like in 1692 during this time of the Salem trials. Who were the accused, being accused, in the trials? Now you know how the perfect storm was able to create little accusations and how it got out of hand so fast. In the end, I don't think that the girls would have ever imagined the implications that their action had. What if some kind of reaction to eating tainted food? What if they seeked attention? Was it just because there were families that didn't like each other? Unfortunately, it seems likely that we may never know. That's it, and then we have my husband, who will be able to, who is watching me.
Hi there.
Are you in there? Okay.